Welcome back. We are awaiting a very big announcement from NASA in the next hour here. It will name the astronauts selected for next year's Artemis II mission around the moon. Charles Watson live with more on this. Charles?
Yeah, hey, really exciting news, Aisha. NASA later this morning will introduce us to the 4 astronauts that it will take up into outer space at the tail end of 2024 in the test flight. The flight will be a part of NASA's Artemis II mission, which will take the 4 astronauts, 3 Americans and 1 Canadian, on a nonstop trip around the moon for the first time in the program's history with people on board. The trip follows the success of Artemis I, an unmanned mission that saw NASA send its Orion spacecraft on a 1.4 million mile journey around the moon and back in an effort to test the Orion module in the agency's new space launch system. When Artemis II kicks off, the crewed mission is expected to take approximately 10 days and could be the deepest humans reach into our solar system since the Apollo missions to the moon more than 5 decades ago. Recently, President Biden said the Artemis program will spark a whole new chapter of possibilities in terms of space exploration, and the crew will likely be one of NASA's most diverse group of astronauts selected for an inaugural mission. This time around, the agency says it's committed to gender, professional, and racial diversity in terms of the astronauts that they pick on this crew, and it will set the stage for Artemis III when we see astronauts step on the moon again, Aisha.
Wonderful. Thank you, Charles Watson, for that live report. Appreciate it.
So the Chinese spy balloon that flew across the U.S. earlier this year back on our radar today. A new report concerning the intelligence information it may have gathered from U.S. military sites before it was shot down. This is intriguing. Brand new hour begins right now. Hope the weekend was joyous. I'm Bill Hemmer. Dana's got the day off today. Aisha, how was the first hour?
It was wonderful. Hope you enjoyed it as well. Good to be here.
Nice. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm Aisha Hasni, and that new report claims that despite U.S. efforts to block it, that Chinese spycraft was able to collect sensitive electronic signals from weapons, equipment, and communication channels as it floated above all those military installations, sending them right back to China in real time. This was the worst case scenario. Now we know it happened. Fox not yet able to confirm this NBC report, but some U.S. officials are already pushing back on this, telling us the information it got was of limited value. That craft first entered U.S. airspace over Alaska back in January of 2028. It was shot down February 4th, just off the South Carolina coast. Chief Washington correspondent Mike Emanuel with much more on this late breaking news. Mike.
Aisha, Bill, good morning to you. This new report from NBC says the Chinese spy balloon was able to gather intelligence from several sensitive American military sites, despite the Biden administration's efforts to block it from doing so. That information coming from 2 current senior U.S. officials and 1 former senior administration official. China was able to control the balloon so it could make multiple passes over key sites, described as, at times, flying figure-8 formations and transmitting it back to Beijing in real time. The top Republican on the Senate Intelligence Committee offered this assessment.
There's a reason why these things fly. They fly over the country to collect signals, intelligence. Part of it is a test to see whether they can penetrate our airspace. Part of it is, frankly, collecting intelligence in real time. Video, signals, intelligence, still pictures fed back in real time, and so forth. That's what this was.
Pentagon officials tell Fox News any signals or electronic intelligence that the balloon gathered was of limited intelligence value, adding that measures were taken to limit the Chinese ability to collect when the balloon was over sensitive sites. Pentagon spokesman Brigadier General Pat Ryder said on February 10th, quote, "What I would tell you is based on the information that we have, it was being maneuvered and purposefully driven along its track. Again, recognizing that winds do play a role because of the maneuverability of the balloon, it is our assessment that this was a purposeful mission. Much of what U.S. officials have learned has likely come from analysis at the FBI labs at Quantico." Aisha?
Stunning report. Mike Emanuel live for us in D.C. Thank you.
So right now, President Trump is getting ready to leave Mar-a-Lago, Florida, fly to New York City for his arraignment tomorrow before a judge. This after his indictment on criminal charges filed by the Manhattan DA. President Trump's attorney says he expects to file a motion to dismiss, which for now, that indictment remains sealed. Jonathan Turley has the analysis. David Spunk's got the reporting, and that's where we begin this hour. David, hello.
Hey, Bill, good morning. You know, while tomorrow may be groundbreaking and history-making, this case out of Manhattan is the least of the former president's legal troubles. And that's not just me talking. That comes from the mouth of the president's former attorney general, William Barr. Now, here in Washington, special counsel Jack Smith is moving quickly. He was appointed by the current attorney general, Merrick Garland, in November. So far, he's gotten Trump's own attorney, Evan Corcoran, to testify before the grand jury, and he's fighting to get Mike Pence to do the same. Smith is investigating Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, but also the Mar-a-Lago documents, more than 10,000 seized by the FBI from Mar-a-Lago, taken from Washington to Florida, about 100 marked classified according to the DOJ. Barr says Smith isn't focused on the taking of the documents, but something more legally troubling.
What's at issue in that case is not the taking of the documents, it's what he did after the government sought them and subpoenaed them and whether there was any obstruction. And I think that's the most serious one out there.
The Washington Post out with reporting yesterday that special counsel Smith is investigating obstruction. The Post reports documents were moved, and Trump formally examined some of those documents after DOJ issued a subpoena to return them. And a source familiar with the probe, Bill and Aisha, told me Secret Service agents connected to the former president have been subpoenaed as well and are expected to testify before the special counsel's grand jury in Washington, D.C. later this week. These are agents around the former president in Florida, and this, of course, related to that documents probe. Bill.
Thank you, David. David Spunt, DOJ. Jonathan Turley joins me now. And Sarah, welcome back. Just a couple technical questions here. How much thought have you given to the consideration that the judge will put a gag order on the former president after tomorrow's appearance?
Well, that is one of the questions that many of us will be asking tomorrow. Judges have become increasingly aggressive in imposing gag orders in high-profile cases, but this is unique. You have someone who is a candidate for the presidency of the United States. This is one of the core issues that is going to be part of that campaign. I mean, Trump is already campaigning on the weaponization of the criminal justice system. I think a gag order would be quite problematic and potentially unconstitutional. I can't imagine a judge gagging a presidential candidate to talk about a matter of such great public importance. I'm generally not a fan of gag orders because of First Amendment issues, but here I think a gag order would find really a skeptical series of appeals in front of courts.
Okay.
I mean, I think they would probably challenge that quickly.
All right, his attorneys will ask for a venue change. I imagine that will fail. Will the judge allow cameras in the courtroom?
Well, on the venue issue, they almost always fail. I've brought a couple of those motions in the past. This is a little different because you have a prosecutor who campaigned on bagging Donald Trump and was elected by the voters in this very district in part for that reason. But I think it will fail. But I think it should be given some serious consideration.
Okay. Wow. All right. So we will see tomorrow whether or not that happens. You wrote on Friday afternoon, I don't know how much you've changed since then. You said Trump would have been better off robbing Stormy, meaning Stormy Daniels, with a gun. Bragg would have thrown that case out. It continues. New York Post. Unless this indictment reveals a previously undisclosed crime, the use of the long debated bootstrapped offense would defy the rule of law. Nobody is above the law, but nobody is below its protections, including Donald Trump. Explain there.
Well, Bill, the initial reference is the fact that Bragg has become rather notorious for taking even violent felonies and knocking them down to misdemeanors or not prosecuting other cases. That's why this is so out of the norm for Bragg. No, I still believe that this is a political prosecution. The reason is that you have a prosecutor that campaigned on this. The reported basis is an effort to bootstrap or a misdemeanor that is now expired, that the statute of limitations is run, and then zapping it back into life by calling it a felony. But to do that, the theory that we're hearing is that they will use a federal crime, a federal election violation. So the Department of Justice declined to prosecute. I think everything about how this case came about smacks of a political use of the criminal justice system. So Bragg is about to give Donald Trump a case positive to support that this is a problem. That's why, of all of these cases, Trump would want this to go first.
So Bragg's got a 4-year term. He's in the second year of that term. We'll see how it goes, right? He campaigned, as you pointed out, that he was going to get Donald Trump. And in fact, a lot of them did here in New York. Marco Rubio raising a different concern a bit earlier today on Fox and Friends. Watch.
And now the precedent is set. Now every state and local prosecutor in America who wants to make a name for themselves is going to go out there and say, well, who can I target? Can I go after George W. Bush? Can I go after Barack Obama? Can I go after Joe Biden one day? Who can I go after to get famous? And I'll just make something up because all the partisans on my side will rally behind me and it'll make me famous.
Well, what do you think of that? Is that a fair comment, or is that overstated?
Well, I think that's a serious. No, it is a fair comment. We could have a race to the bottom. You know, for years, there's been a type of détente that people really wouldn't cross this line because it would result in tit-for-tat types of prosecutions. I think there's a real danger of that now. I mean, you have these Democratic district attorneys that have followed Oscar Wilde's rule that the only way to be rid of temptation is to yield to it. And they're yielding to it. What Bragg is doing, in my view, is wrong. Now, we'll see what he has in this indictment, but we haven't heard of other crimes or other theories for months. But more importantly, if you look at how this indictment came about with a very public campaign of former prosecutors, including a book, a tell-all book, it really does smack of a political prosecution.
Professor, thank you. Tomorrow will be history. We know that. It's going to be interesting to watch it back and forth and whether or not at 8:15 tomorrow night at Mar-a-Lago what the statement is from the former president. Thank you, sir. Jonathan Turley, we will talk often tomorrow on Tuesday and beyond. Thank you. Here's this.
I'm afraid that, we have a long wait ahead of us, and Evan's going to be stuck in that prison for a long time.
So straight ahead, the U.S. stepping up efforts to get a U.S. reporter arrested in Russia released. We'll tell you what the State Department is doing now.
Also, a European country putting the brakes on artificial intelligence, temporarily banning ChatGPT because of privacy concerns, and we'll get into that coming up.
And the Democratic mayor of San Francisco seeking state help to deal with the rampant drug problem and the homelessness in that city. San Francisco police